You have stumbled into a Port Wallace Technologies Tech Talk. This is one in an endless series of short talks and tutorials on subjects that have captured the fancy of one or the other of our consultants. Today's Tech Talk is brought to you by us. Port Wallace Technologies is a Wilmington, North Carolina-based IT consultancy, and we specialize in bringing big company capabilities to small and medium businesses. We're going to show how to use a Jupyter Notebook as a development aid. Why? Well, it lets us quickly explore ideas without constantly throwing away everything we've built, and we can easily go from fussing around to a production module. And we're going to show how to use the requests library to get data from a very basic API, and maybe to show that even with an easy API, there will still be some gotchas. Okay, let's get down to it now. We are going to go get some basic financial information for a company from the EDGAR website. The Security and Exchange Commission maintains EDGAR, and it contains SEC filings from every publicly traded company in the US. Of course, it has a nice lookup feature, but why on earth would we want to use that when we have Python? Let's start by firing up VS Code. But wait, I thought we said we were going to use Jupyter Notebooks to start this out. That's true. But we aren't going to use Jupyter Lab because honestly, I don't use it enough to make it feel really natural to me. And I really like how VS Code works with notebooks. So first, let's look to see if we have the Jupyter extension pack installed. I do. If you don't, just follow the instructions to install it. You just have to install that one extension pack and it'll install everything else you need. You do not need to have Jupyter installed on your machine already, because if it isn't, the extension will do that for you. Now let's create a new folder to hold our work. Or if you already have a favorite spot, just open up that folder. Let's create the notebook. Remember that it has an IPYNB extension. If you have ever used notebooks, you'll recognize that the file already is properly organized into cells. I like to sketch out what I'm going to accomplish in Markdown cells before I start coding. Let's see, import stuff, get the API call together, make the API call, save the response to a file, just because I like to do that rather than fuss around with multiple API calls. Save the things I care about to a dictionary, and then do something fun with the information. Now we're just going to display it today, but that's going to have to count as fun. So what do we need to import? Well, we know that we need requests. And since a lot of APIs like to get their parameters as JSON, let's just make the assumption that we're going to need the JSON library as well. We can drop it later if we don't need it. Now, since we have to have a kernel for Jupyter, let's go create a Python environment at the same time. And we'll use our requirements.txt that I haven't shown you, and I will show you what that looks like in a minute. And there it goes. It'll merrily create all kinds of stuff. It imports all of the Jupyter things and all manner of magical stuff. And we will just wait for this to finish as it contemplates its navel for a while. And there we go. And it's always a good idea to run your imports, because otherwise things will go weird. Setting up the request is pretty easy. We just create a request object. We're going to get from the EDGAR website a lookup table so we can convert from stock ticker symbols to the CIK identifier that the SEC uses for companies. You thought that we could just plug a ticker into the API call like on the website, didn't you? One thing that is very important if you are pulling data from a lot of no-limit sites like Edgar is to have a user agent header so that you don't get tagged as an abuser. So that I don't accidentally impersonate someone else, I use a simple header with our company name and email address. You notice that I used a dictionary here for the headers. I didn't really have to do it, but since so many times you will need to add more headers, it's a good idea to just get used to it. Let's see what we get. Well, crap. It blew up. Why? Look, typo. Let's fix that and run the cell again. Yay. Let's look at what it gave us back. Well, I can see that we got a success return code. So let's explore the data a tiny bit. Just go back and fix that comment, because the only thing worse than no comments are bad comments. And as you can see, I'm using really descriptive names here. Looks like we have a 9,000 entry dictionary, but there are the CIK and ticker symbols we were looking for. Let's make our life a little easier and make a dictionary that'll let us get the CIK for any ticker symbol instead of trying to look it up in this order every time. Now, the only thing that's at all tricky here is that we need to zero fill the CIK so that it's 10 digits wide, or we have to remember to do that every time we use it with Edgar. And look at that. So normally this is the do something fun with the data part of the show. And of course here, the fun thing is to go get some more data. So let's just copy what we've already done. We know from the Edgar API documentation that I can just grab all of the company information in one call. So let's just do that. I use an F string because I find them just so much more readable than any other way of building a string out of parts. Now I want to get the information from JP Morgan so that I can see where all my banking fees go. And success. If we look at the response, it is a mess. We see that we got a 404, but it clearly isn't a JSON object that we got. The API isn't quite on the same URL. All of the API's URLs start with data. So let's just fix that and try again. And now we have success. We have a huge dictionary with everything you could possibly want to know about the company. So let's just pull out two fun facts: revenue and profit. So recall that we had the mysterious letters XBRL in the API call. That's because there's a standard for how to structure financial information. Now their site is a bit, well, it's a standards org. What do you think it looks like? When I am looking for how to interpret XBRL, I go to the XBRL site. No, really, that's what it's called. They do some really nice explainers there, and I have found it very useful to use. So from that excellent resource, I know that the pieces of information I'm looking for are called revenues and net income loss. They're buried deep down in the structure, but helpfully we can get guidance along the way. Notice the get in the list comprehension. We're using the frame key, but there isn't always a value for it. So if we don't use get, the comprehension blows up, and we really don't want that. And we'll just copy that for the profit, which is, of course, in the dictionary, net income loss. Now we'll check to make sure that it all looks the same, and we aren't going to blow anything up if we just do that old copy and paste. And here at the end, we can now happily print out the good news. That JP Morgan made almost 38 billion in profit from 128 billion in revenue. I will put links to all the sites we use today down in the notes, and the code will be on GitHub. Please like and subscribe and leave a comment if you like. Tell us what you'd like to see us do. Ideas are always welcome. Thanks for watching.